And the former Eskom CEO in conversation with us. And of course, we saw earlier this month that South Africa managed to rack up to an unprecedented stage 6 of load shedding. And the former CEO, under whose watch there was no load shedding, may have some suggestions in this regard of how to deal with it. But first, let's find out, how did you manage to keep the lights on during your tenure?
Let's just recap, Sakina, in our earlier discussion. So you agree that we should not have given Glencore the increase?
I said, I believe
so if
you
were
were
in
correct.
my shoes, that is what you would have done. And then what do you do when Glencore then says, I'm selling the mine to the Guptas? What would you have done?
As I understand it,
not what you understand. In my shoes at the time, what would you have done?
Let me indicate that whole collapse in Glencore seems to have happened in a space of a month, in terms of, them being placed under business rescue, the business rescue practitioners coming in, and then KPMG on behalf of Oak Bay making an approach that they wanted to take over. All of this happens in a period of a month.
Because they say because they are not getting the increase.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what would you have done?
I'm not blaming you, Mr. Molefe. I have said, I agree. I think you took the correct decision.
But I'm just asking you, when they decide to sell the mine to the Guptas, what would you have done? Because the end game is that you will then become a Gupta person, because you refused to give them the increase.
Whether you believe they have framed you in this regard.
Sakina, it's called extortion. That is what was happening. I was being forced to agree to an increase in price or else. And now the or else is happening. And you're playing along with it.
How am I playing along with it, Mr.
So
Molefe?
let's talk about the load shedding.
No, I want to know, how am I playing along with it?
No, but I can see your demeanor in the way that you're asking questions.
But what is...
you are bent on a particular narrative, unfortunately.
But I'm asking you questions that have factual answers, Mr. Molefe. That's all I'm asking you about.
And I gave you the facts. I was just asking you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? That was checkmate. That was catch-22. That's what it was. In the end, agree to the increase in the price or else. And or else was, as I said in the past, a huge domino effect that has led us to even this interview.
Were you
anyway, let's talk. You were going on
were
to
you
another
overtly
something.
and directly threatened in this regard, from what you just saying?
Well, we sat in a meeting, and Glencore said, well, Mr. Molefe, if you don't agree to the increase, and I've said this before, if you don't agree to the increase, we will stop the supply of coal to Henrina, and there will be a lot of load shedding. And I said to them, if you're putting a gun to my head, please pull the trigger. And they did stop the supply of coal to Henrina under business rescue. But we did not load shed, even when they were not supplying us with coal. We scavenged for it. We fought and got coal from the streets, from the small miners, from the BEE miners that Oberholzer thinks are now people that are causing load shedding. They helped us in that dark hour when Optimum was not supplying us with coal. And then they sold the mine to the Guptas. That was like a master stroke in chess. And they won.
And that whole story is very convoluted, but many parts of it don't relate to you.
It's
many parts of it don't relate to you, Mr. Molefe, because there's talks about the then Minister of Mining getting involved, in order to facilitate that this particular mine was sold to this family and nobody else, when there were in fact other bidders.
I don't know about that.
Which is exactly why I'm saying
so who are the other bidders?
To this. There are parts to this.
According to your information, who were the other bidders?
I'll find that report. There were 2 other bidders at least.
Pembani was one of them.
Pembani was one of them. There were other bidders, yes.
Yeah. And Pembani, I said to them, well, the price of 150 stays and the fine, the penalty of 2 billion stays. And they said, well, we can't do the deal. But you can't sell the mine to anyone else. There's a letter, they wrote a letter to that effect.
Speaking of that penalty of 2 billion rand, how much of that was ultimately paid when Tegeta took over?
After I left, there was a negotiation process and a arbitration process that I can't really comment on.
Because I think I read it was about 500
what
million
I do know,
of the 2.1 billion that was paid.
Is that the arbitration and the negotiations after I left were led by Susan Daniels.
Let's talk to the current load shedding situation at Eskom, and particularly given that you managed to keep the lights on at Eskom. And I made it my business to speak to people at Eskom to find out exactly what was going on at the time. And they speak of you in very glowing terms, the people at Eskom. I spoke to several people, not just one or two people. And they say that you had a certain culture. But let's talk to what it is that you did, that you managed to get right in keeping the lights on at Eskom.
We did maintenance. We did maintenance. We said maintenance was not negotiable. We set up a system that we call Tetris that scheduled maintenance, planned maintenance, not unplanned maintenance. We did everything in our power to reduce unplanned breakdowns. That's what we did. And it paid off in 6 months. We stopped load shedding, and it never occurred in another 3 years. But with the current situation, the president has said there won't be load shedding between the 17th and the 13th of January. I have no reason not to believe the president. And a war room has been set up, and I'm quite confident and sure that they will be successful in turning the situation around.
So you say maintenance, but when we hear reports from Eskom, in some instances, they talk about maintenance that hasn't been done for more than a decade.
Yeah, you will remember, I came into this studio, even maybe talking to Leanne Manas, explaining our maintenance festivals. Remember, I used to come here and say,
I remember the maintenance festivals.
We are going to go into a maintenance festival. We are going to do maintenance as if it is a festival during holidays. Remember, for anyone to turn around and say we didn't do maintenance over the last 10 years is rich.
So Eskom is lying to us?
I didn't say that.
Well, they either are lying or they are not, because you were saying the maintenance was done. Eskom is telling us, you know, part of these breakdowns are due to maintenance that wasn't done over the years.
It was, when I was there, we did maintenance. When I was there, we did maintenance, and it was not a secret. We talked about Tetris. We made presentations, maybe even in the studio, about how Tetris works, how we are doing maintenance, and we took opportunities to do festivals of maintenance, which means intense maintenance, which means a lot of maintenance in a short space of time. When we saw the opportunity, like this long weekend would have been a maintenance festival for us, this past long weekend.
So do you think the current load shedding situation is one that can be, dealt with decisively and going forward, that we can once again find ourselves with no load shedding?
Yes, I mean, the president has announced a war room that is very decisive, and I'm sure that the situation will become under control again.
Would you avail yourself to assist if asked? So you would be available?
What that means,
in other words, you are available. You would assist if you are asked to.
But that is a very expressive way in Setswana. I'm not saying I will kill the snake. I'm saying I will take a small piece of a twig even and throw it at the stake. My little contribution I will make. I can make if I'm asked. It's one.
And just finally, Mr. Molefe, you do have an opportunity now. What would you like to say to South Africa? Because you have been, very much in the news realm about what has been going on. What would you like to say to South Africa about your tenure as Eskom CEO?
Well, my tenure as Eskom CEO came. We stopped load shedding. Beyond stopping load shedding, there was really, we had other plans, long-term plans. But load shedding was the reason that I was sent to Eskom in the first place, and that was dealt with. So I feel that the mission that I was sent to do, sent on at Eskom was achieved. And at the time when I left, I saw that the politics were getting very, very complicated. And so I decided to leave.
Any regrets?
No regrets.
Mr. Molefe, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
And that, of course, Mr. Brian Molefe, former Eskom CEO, talking about, his tenure at Eskom and also what some of the possible solutions could be going forward, given what he managed to do during his tenure as CEO to keep the lights on. Let's take a break.